All right, Brian Callahan is here. We talked last year. What's new, buddy?
A lot.
Yeah?
Same old.
Same old?
Yeah.
You're still here?
Still
here. In Florida?
Still coming down to the owners'
I
meetings.
asked Dave Canales this question yesterday, and it's such a broad question. It borders on being a bad question, but I'm going to let you save it. What's the number one thing you learned your first year as a head coach about yourself as a coach, self-scout?
Yeah. I could write a book if we're being honest.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think one of the strengths that I had is that I was able to rally the team and keep the team together, and the messaging. I thought that was one of the things I did a good job with our team. But the other part of it is you learn how many people need your time and attention, and there's definitely parts of the team and parts of the process that I probably didn't give the requisite attention. Now that you go through it, you see where those spots are, and I think that I'll be a lot better for it. But you learn an unbelievable amount about your ability to handle adversity, your ability to work with people, build relationships. There's a lot of things that go into the process and that you think you might have a great feel for, and then once you get into it, you're like, man, I got to do this, and this a whole lot better. Aside
from the obvious, which is the number one overall pick will be on the roster this year, what's the biggest difference going to be between the 2024 Titans and the 25 Titans?
My biggest focus for our team this year is handling the things that we can control, the things that lost us games. And right now that's negative plays, it's interceptions, it was penalties. Too many times we got in our own way from winning a game. Talent aside, roster aside, we got to do all of those things a lot better. And so if you're asking me what I want to see and what the emphasis is going to be, is to see a cleaner brand of football that's going to allow us to win more games as opposed to giving games away that we did. And again, it's not one position, it's not one side of the ball, it was all three phases. Too many things that were negative that we have to fix.
Give me an underrated Titan I should be talking more about nationally.
Let's see here. I think I think Tony Pollard is probably incredibly underrated as a football player. He was fantastic for us. He battled through injuries over the course of the second half of the season, but I don't think he gets quite enough attention for how awesome of a football player he is and how fantastic of a human he is. So that would probably be he's underrated, but still a very good football player.
Yeah. You obviously at some point probably have a young quarterback. Could be first overall, maybe not. Who knows? I won't ask you to turn the pick in right now.
Thank you.
But you obviously were around Joe. You know what that looks like. How much did Joe inform your feelings on quarterback development, how to do it, when to sit a guy, what to throw at him in training camp, the whole deal?
It's a huge experience for me that I'm going to lean on quite a bit if that's the direction we end up going, because Joe wasn't the Joe he is now. I mean, there was still development that occurred. There was still things that he got better at. There was still things that he didn't do as well as he does now. And then just getting that up to speed. I actually went back and watched because it was COVID, so we had all this Zoom time, and we recorded all of them.
Oh,
and so I went back and watched all of those first handful of meetings, just to more for perspective on I see Joe as I saw him when I left, which is this, top of the league, best quarterback in football, arguably.
Rich as hell.
Very, very wealthy now. But I went back and watched all of those just to see where he was in that process. And it was good for me to see, because you don't remember that sometimes, on the amount of work that it took to get to where he was. And a lot of that's a credit to Joe, but there was definitely things that we did developmentally, both in how we taught the scheme, how we introduced it, what we asked of him, how we structured game plans that first year. Those are all things that I've sort of revisited just to have some perspective on what it looks like.
Is it harder? I was thinking about this with some of the other guys, quarterback development and what that looks like. Is it harder now? You've been in the league for a long time. I mean, there are no reps for backup quarterbacks anymore. Right. It's really hard. And there's and a lot of that's good and player health and all that stuff. But it's really hard to develop a quarterback when he's not the primary focus of the building. Yeah. So with any young quarterback, is it now just kind of we're going to throw all our resources at this guy? And how has that changed since even you came into the league?
I mean, that's how I see it, is that most of these guys are picked high to play. And I think the instances of, the Mahomes and the Rodgers, those were very different team setups then, too. Kansas City had a good football team.
They did.
With Alex Smith. And so it wasn't as imperative that the pick hit right away, which I don't think that's majority of cases. Usually you're counting on that guy to play. And so there is a lack of developmental time because these guys do get thrown in so fast and they have to perform quickly.
Yeah.
The other part of it is, if you want to talk, another discussion for another day, is offensive line development, right? Maybe even harder at this point. But that's where these guys got to come in and they got to play. And so from a development perspective, I think what you saw, even what we did with Joe Burrow, I think what you saw Cliff do with Jaden Daniels is you find as many things that you can find to where they can have success early and allow them to play fast and play confident, and you sort of fill it in as you go, and you stack those lessons and you stack those things that maybe they weren't as good at that you have to develop. You kind of introduce them slowly as you let them get off the ground.
I mean, the great thing now is I think a lot of times, even when you started in the league, the whole thing was square peg, round hole. This guy's going to run our offense. And with Jaden in particular, I talked to Tavita Pritchard, their quarterback's coach, in August. And he was like, listen, this guy was running incredible slot seam, with the whole deal, slot fades against SEC defenses, against Georgia, against Alabama. Guess what? He's going to be, if he could do it at 80%, clip or whatever, he's going to be able to do it with some success at the NFL. I think that has been the biggest change, I think, in the last maybe 10 years, especially as the NFL has got more comfortable with the spread, is, hey, we like what this guy did at the college level. Let's just run some of those plays. And you had that with Joe as well.
Yeah, our goal, even, I've probably said it before and at some point, maybe even to you, is our goal is to make year one in the NFL feel like year three at LSU.
Yeah.
And so that
you said it in print, though, which is a dying medium. Now we can do it on podcasts.
There we go. But I think that's what the difference was, is that we took a lot of feedback on what he did well at LSU and tried to incorporate as much of that as possible. Now, we have a lot of the same things, and so it's more, do you like this concept? Yes, I do. Okay, well, let's just do a lot of that.
Yeah.
And that allows you to get off the ground a bit. I think Washington did a great job of that as well.
Yeah, completely agree. Tell me something about Nashville that I don't know.
Like the city itself?
The city itself. What have you learned in the last calendar year?
It is actually a great place to live with a family.
There you go.
Yeah. And I as far as like people, neighborhood, connection with, it's fantastic. I can see why people all live there.
That's everybody moved there in the past decade.
There's a lot.
I thought it was all bachelorette parties, but apparently the people are just moving there.
It's a fantastic place to live and have a family. To be honest, it's been really, really fun to be a part of that community.
I love that area. No, it's really,
and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Tell me something about Brian Callahan. I don't know, like hobbies, TV show, book, whatever. What would surprise people about Brian Callahan?
That I grew up playing ice hockey. And that's probably,
now, where were you?
In Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And so I was a better ice hockey player than I ever was a football player.
Really?
Yeah. That was my first sport. I absolutely love hockey.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your team growing up?
Because I grew up at Wisconsin, I was University of Wisconsin fan.
Yeah, I was going to say, I loved college hockey.
And they were really good the years that we lived there. But I grew up, because my mom and dad are from Chicago, born and raised. I grew up a Blackhawks fan.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I played hockey. I played in college.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. I played on the club team at UCLA.
Okay.
Yeah. So I played college hockey. I played on our men's league team in Denver with all our equipment guys. So yeah, I got a picture of me. Peyton Manning would come. He came and watched us one time just for fun, because it's all the equipment guys and a couple assistant coaches. We all played. Yeah. We had like a Denver Broncos men's league team.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I haven't played in a while, but I love hockey.
Jack, can we get a Peyton Manning scouting report on Brian Callahan? We'll just FaceTime him in.
You'll find I do. He probably has a copy of it. He's got a picture of he's sitting in the locker room right next to as we get before a game. He just come and hang out. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I want my son to play hockey because I'm not athletic. My wife's not athletic.
Yeah.
I was actually a pretty good hockey player.
Really?
As long as you can skate
Yeah.
and handle the puck, like the fundamentals can get you far.
Yes.
Can get you far.
Did you? How long did you play for?
Like 10 years in Florida.
Did you really?
Yeah. And then so you're in Florida, warm weather. You kind of know the same with DCUI.
But hockey fanatics, though, right?
I was hockey fanatics, but a lot of my friends, not a lot, like 4 or 5, the kids who wanted to jump up, they had to go to Canada,
go play juniors.
Minnesota, whatever. I didn't want to be on that track.
That's the same reason I didn't do it, because I was in California when I was in high school,
right?
And you had to travel so much, and I got brothers and sisters and a football coach and a father. How am I going to go travel to Boston every other weekend to play, or how am I going to go live in Canada? So I did not choose that path, which is probably for the best.
Tell me your favorite part about working with your dad last year. You've done it before, but
it was really fun for me to see how he works.
Yeah.
And see him like work I'd always heard about it. But I'd never like in the day-to-day been with him, and just to actually like go in his office every Tuesday and game plan the run game and like the detail and the technique and how he runs his meetings. That's been really fun for me to watch, because he's such a machine when it comes to the technique and the presentation, and he wastes like no time during the day. It's incredible. Like there's not a wasted minute when he's with the players, and that's been really fun to be able to like have those conversations and talk about the game plan. It's been really, really cool.
Thank you, buddy.
Of course, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Brian Callahan.